conversation about technology in the banking, finance, and insurance industry in Kenya. You will have noticed that the originally laid down person who was going to facilitate this, Fabian Omare, is indisposed, and so he cannot take part over here. But my name's James Forson. I'm from South Africa, and it's my privilege to be with you today to participate, have a front row seat in this conversation about technology in India, in Kenya. Some very exciting things in the banking and finance space coming out of India, and we are going to pull those out, and we're going to get to the grips with that in a very, very real way. To those of you out there, our audience, wherever you are, whether you're on the Zoom platform or you're coming to us through social media, a warm welcome to you. I know you're going to find great value in this. And please, if you have a question, pop it into the question box at the bottom. You can see it over there, the question and answer box over there. And we'll do our best to bring your comment into the conversation over here and we deal with this. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Regenesis Business School. Obviously, we have a campus in Nairobi in Kenya. We also have campuses in India, in Nigeria, in Tanzania, in South Africa. And so we are a global self-learning institution, and we are really privileged to be able to have a campus in Kenya to be able to do the things that we do over here. Now, for those, the audience up there, let me tell you that the panelists you have before you today are some very high-powered people, and they will introduce themselves to you. I'll give you their time for free. As you are participating here, it's no cost to you. And why we do this is that it's not always possible to get access to the best thinking, the big minds, the current trends and so on, without having to pay a lot of money. And what we do is we bring people together who have the expertise and knowledge, and the people who want to know more about this, and we create the platforms to talk with us. This is our webinar platform today. We're talking about HR in the digital age, the resources particularly, and in the context of Kenya, I should say. You can see where my last webinar was, navigating the banking, financial services, and insurance landscape in Kenya. Very vibrant part of the world, lots of development, lots of exciting things happening there. We live in a world that is changing dramatically, but you haven't come to this webinar to listen to me go on. You've come to listen to our panelists who are going to share ideas and thoughts and insights. And I'm going to ask you to briefly introduce themselves, their name, the organization they work for, and the role that they play in the organization, and then we'll get into their debate over here. And I'm going to put Ken on the spot over here because he's got that elegant office behind him over there, and he's one of the first people into the room when we started. Ken, tell us about yourself and the work you do.
Thank you, Dr. Forson. My name is Ken Watitu. I work in Microfinance Bank. We pride ourselves to be the third largest microfinance bank in Kenya, and my role is head of strategic partnerships and transformation. So, quite excited to be part of this and also contribute. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that. It was a brilliant start to this. That's always the most difficult to the person who gets the first voice in the conversation. You've acquitted yourself very well. Have you set the standard over there? Right. I'm just going according to the way my screen is set up, so this is no particular order. Latif, would you like to tell us a little about who you are and the sort of work you do?
Thank you, James, and just so everybody can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear. Do go ahead.
Great. So Latif Wekesa is my name. I head the business development function, general insurance at Binet. Binet is a leading insurance broker in East Africa. Previously, we were trading as under Aon Corporation before our transition to Binet. So it's a great time to join this call, and hopefully we can be able to add value in terms of what the digital space has done in our various space of work. So thank you.
Nice. Another nice introduction there. Thank you. We're off to a flying start, folks. This is only going to get better as we go along here. Paul, go ahead and tell us about yourself. Paul Macharia.
Hey everyone, my name is Paul, CEO of GeoTapay. So GeoTapay, we are B2B payments company. We basically provide the entire infrastructure for payment for businesses, all the way from how they invoice, how they manage to pay their vendors, how they manage any other expenditure within the business. Yeah. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we are delighted to have you here as we always thought about. It's a nice thing.
I don't know whether it's my net. I'm missing you a bit.
Oh,
Is
could
it
well
my
be.
internet?
I can see you perfectly. I can hear you perfectly. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm spluttering away over here. But no, thank you very much for that, Paul. You've done well over there. And Stanley, I see your camera's off. Let's see who Stanley is. Stanley, tell us about yourself and the organization you work for. Stanley's having problems with his system, I think. Let's give Stanley another moment or two. We haven't forgotten you, but Stanley, if we do go on, but it's just so that you just feel free to, when your picture comes on, we will bring you into the conversation straight away. Now, that's in the nature of these webinars, is that people actually have jobs that they're doing while they're on the webinar. Maybe there's some important matter that Stanley has to attend to, and it's fit and proper that he attends to that problem before he comes and joins us over here. And so, Stanley, we look forward to welcoming you formally when you have space to be with us. Right, I'm going to go into talking about the nitty-gritty, the detail of what we want to get about. Now, we've heard from your organizations over there what you do. And obviously, our audience up there comes from a wide variety. There might be students, there might be senior executives, there might be people who have interest in this, excitement in this. There might be colleagues from your own organization to welcome to all our people out there watching us from afar. The question I want to pose to you and see how you respond to this is, how is the digital age showing up in your organization? What's happening? What's changing? What are the pressure points, the stresses that digitization, IT systems, technology, including blockchain, Bluetooth, goodness knows what all, how are these things manifesting themselves in your business, and how are you responding to that? Who's going to be the brave person to pick that up and go ahead? I think Paul was looking like he was going to grab that one there.
Yeah, I can always go fast. I'm coming from financial technology background, basically what you call fintech. And I think fintech has been one of the industries that have enjoyed a lot of innovation, speed, agility. And this is in terms of everything. So in terms of the business models, there are probably hundreds of business models. There are liquidity provider, there are Web3 fintechs, fintechs that provide liquidity, fintechs that are neobanks. So it has various forms and shapes that it takes. So ideally, when we talk about the context of fintech and HR, this intersection both provides opportunities for growth in terms of the talent pool in fintech, but it also presents a challenge where even HR chiefs or HR heads within fintech organizations have to realign their priorities. They have to shift their traditional focus to be able to meet the emerging needs in terms of skill and in terms of just the digital adaptability of part of what we call traditional skills. For instance, disruption is happening when you look at industries like customer service with the emergence of AI agents and so forth. So for me, it's mostly looking at both the new challenges that are emerging because of how fast the industry is changing, but at the same time look at the opportunities that are presenting themselves in terms of skill development and so forth. So that would be where I would begin my discussion.
Thank you very much, Paul. You managed to pack a whole lot of content into a very small space, and you've really set the floor very nicely for the conversation as we go along. Before we go on to the next participant over, let me just hear from Stanley. Stanley, are you still around there? Do you want to introduce yourself? Put your screen on so we can see who you are and get involved in debate. We don't want to leave you out. Oh, there you are, Stanley. Oh, you went away again. There you're back again, Stanley. Hello. Welcome, Stanley. Yes, we've started already, and I know we got a feeling that you had to address something else. We're into the debate, everybody. Would you like to take a moment just to tell us who you are and the sort of business you're in and the sort of things you do in the business that you're involved with?
Thank you so much. My name is Dr. Stanley Chege. I'm the CEO of Digital Transformation Experts Limited, and I help organizations roll out digital initiatives, including AI, cloud, data analytics, and such kind of solutions. So I'm seeing a lot of uptake for Kenyan organizations, especially banking and financial services. Thank you.
Oh, good. No, you're the right person and you're in the right place over there. Thank you very much for that. And you've probably picked up the trend of what we've been talking about. Let's go on to either Ken or Latif to tell us how the new digital age is striking your organization. What are the pressure points? What are the changes? What are the things you're having to deal with there? Who would like to go?
Well, I'd like to take it in the respective perspective that you put it in. So being in a highly regulated framework kind of industry, we are basically seeing, first of all, there is an uptake kind of attention, taking traction in this area of digitization, moving to AI also, trying to learn things on how to address the emerging and obviously mutating customer needs. However, there's also a challenge of the risk enterprise framework and also looking at a new competitive edge. I remember Paul has mentioned about the emerging neobanks. That is a very new concept in banking whereby it is branchless and you have just to interact from a technological point of view. So you'll find there's a whole lot of challenging infrastructure layout in different financial systems that may not be in a position to catch up and also deploy to the new areas. However, businesses to change will only mean that sometimes we become obsolete in time, but they have to really jump on board and also catch up with the emerging trends. So it is quite a dynamic evolution, especially for the banking sector.
Yeah, no, that word dynamic revolution is a very, very apt concept to put into the conversation over here. For instance, the bank that I do my personal banking with, there's no branch network at all. Anywhere you can, on the internet, you can go and do that. And obviously, it's a limited service. As I sometimes say, you can't complain about the service because there isn't service in the traditional form of the bank, but it's all done digitally. And that is shaping our minds and changing our way of thinking about how we manage funds, how we manage money, the transfer money, and the utilization of funds in our businesses, in our private life, etc. But before we go on over there, I want to welcome Irenaeus Gishana. I hope I've mentioned your name correctly. You've joined us a couple of moments ago, and I want to thank you for joining us. My name's James Forson. A very warm welcome to you. If you'd like to put your camera on and just tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization, and then we'll slot you into the conversation and we will take it further from there. So, Irenaeus, if you would like to tell us about who you are and the organization you work with.
Sorry, I happen to be on the road,
It happens. You're not the first person on our webinars who's been driving somewhere. You see the whole vehicle moving around over there. But if you are driving, drive safely. If you're being driven, well, that's great. Tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Kishana. I'm a consultant in financial services in a vast array of areas. And career-wise, before joining consultancy, I have been in the commercial banking and microfinance banking industry. Lately, as a CEO and executive director for Maisha Microfinance Bank that I set up, I'm the founding CEO. In short, I set it up from scratch, and it's regulated and licensed by the central bank. So it's now rebranded into a new name. And then prior to that, of course, I was in Faulu Microfinance Bank as the head of operations in the Exco. And prior to that, I was in Standard Chartered Bank for quite a number of years. So in short, I'm banking. I'm a career banker.
I can hear that. I can see that. And thank you very much for that.
I think in terms of the topic that you're talking about, of course, I have been leading people as well.
You're right.
Because today we are discussing about HR and quite a number of challenges. And I think we evidenced some of the challenges during the COVID-19 when we got staff to stay away from home. Work from home. And, it was something that was making the HR people to run around looking for the implications. You on paper, you've signed a contract with the HR people, your staff, that say that your place of work is ABCD, but now you're telling me work from my home. Then there are legal implications. You're telling a staff work from home. Should the staff... anyway, let me not go beyond the introduction.
No, you're giving us scenes from where we're going to be going later on in the conversation. Thank you very much for that, Renius. That was very nice. To our audience out there, welcome. This is Regenesis Business School. We're talking about banking, finance, and insurance. We're talking about banking, finance, insurance in Kenya, and we talk about the context of the digital age, what's coming. And I know poor Latif has been sitting there at the edge of his seat. He wants to make his contribution over there and get in over there. Latif, your floor is yours, so go ahead.
Thank you, James. And here in Kenya, we call you Daktari. Nobody is a doctor. So we prefer. So once in a while, if you hear referred to you as Daktari, it just means a doctor. So I think from one, of course, from insurance space, like the previous speakers, particularly Kenneth, what he has mentioned is in terms of course, the world has literally gone digital, and where we see it is with this going digital has also exposed the company to, or other organization, to various risks. So from insurance perspective, it has just been about how do we, of course, crack around and just find that any risk that is associated from AI related issues, cyber related, is there a solution? So it has actually come to us as an opportunity. Another key, of course, frontier where we see the revolution of digital space in Kenya is particularly regulation, because regulation has been critically at the center in driving revolution from the insurance perspective. In yesteryears,
you've gone quiet there for a moment. Okay, take it away. Continue, Latif. Have you frozen? Anybody else hear Latif? I can't hear him. It looks like he's frozen there, which happens, by the way, folks. This is. I see you back again, Latif. Yes, go ahead.
Hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you now. Lovely. Go ahead. You're raising some useful points there. Go ahead.
So what I was saying is, some years back, space. Sure. So you can click on the button. You can actually buy the insurance.
Not if you're a bit scrambled with some background noises.
Signal is not good there. Sure. This is something you can do about in the short term, because you're making some useful points out there which we need to respond to. So I don't want to make sure you can hear me. We can hear you now. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, what I was alluding to is yesteryears you find that you literally had to walk to an insurance company and get a physical certificate. Remember, motor insurance is one of the mandatory covers that we have, but with digital transformation, the insurance certificate has actually been transformed into a digital certificate. One, of course, by that transformation, we have been able to reduce the cost of distribution. Today, the farthest corner of Kenya is, maybe I can talk about Elwak. So the click of a button ordinarily could take you about 2 or 3 days to put it in a bus so that insurance company somebody can access. But with the click of a button, somebody at Elwak can be able to buy insurance and at the same time can be able to access it. A key development which is also of interest to us from the insurance space is there were a lot of untapped revenue, particularly to marine insurance. Most imports which are coming to Kenya are being insured under most cargo are under the Incoterms of CIF. But now the government has come in with regulation and made sure that effective 14th of this month, that anybody who is doing an importation should, by way or rather, have a digital marine certificate. So if you're importing a car, you can be able to buy so that you can be able to clear. So by and large, how from the insurance perspective, it's the digital transformation for us has been an opportunity in terms of growth. Number two, it has actually enhanced compliance from a motor insurance perspective to a marine insurance perspective, and also our interaction with the customers actually been better. Then, of course, in terms of innovation, it has also built another product like the cyber liability insurance, which ordinarily would not have been there if the digital era had not come into play. So, of course, for us, it's key. And if somebody, of course, looks out to graduating and coming to a field, are there opportunities from a tech perspective? Yes. For you to assess and quantify the level of risk that you need to ensure, then you need to have a tech background. For you to become a better salesperson, then you need tech actually to help you look into insights of data and just able to see how effectively you can be able to redistribute your product. So it's a nice environment that we are operating in, and hopefully that we continue just to tap in and just occupy the space of digital. Thank you.
There's a man who enjoys this job. He says it's a nice environment. You've raised some very important points there, Latif. I can't address all of them, but one thing that really stuck with you is the issue about risk, because that is banking, finance, insurance, all those things about risk. The risk of transaction, risk of things going wrong, risk of information going all over the place. Cybersecurity is a massive area over there. And with that, then in parallel are the regulatory compliance issues over there in terms of the good governance and good management of other people's funds inside your organization. And of course, the funds take on a digital aspect and not involved with money, as some of us were a little bit older than others would remember banks doing that in the old days over there. So very nice. Stanley, we've come round in a circle over there. Is there anything you want to throw into the pot regarding this? And before we take it any further, is there something you wanted to respond to? Stanley's busy doing that. Renius, was there anything? I know you made a very useful comment earlier on. Is there something you want to add to this? Because then I'd like to change gears and go in a slightly different direction.
Just bear with me, eh?
Yes, no, we are bearing with you. We are with you in the motor car. We're driving with you. We're going to the same destination.
Yeah, I think in terms of the banking landscape, a lot of emphasis on really moving digital landscape. I think the banking sector here has taken the lead. You know, my brother Latif, the sector is just following up and just trying to do a catch up. You've talked about the risks of digital financing.
You've gone quiet there. Yes, we can hear you now. We just been quiet for a moment. Obviously going around a corner or something.
You can hear me?
We can hear you. Do go ahead, Arrhenius.
And I hope I'm in sync with your question, because I missed something.
Keep talking. You're making sense. Nothing is wasted.
So I think there's a lot of emphasis on adoption of technology to drive business, leverage on technology to drive business. So a number of...
Oh, you've gone quiet again. Must be going around another corner under a bridge. Arrhenius, can you hear
organizations
us?
in the country investing in technology.
Right, you're back again.
If
Yes, you're back.
Yeah, if your business model is lacking in technology, then likelihood of you not being so business resilient. So in terms of churning in numbers.
Very definitely.
So I think that's the landscape. Are you hearing me?
We can hear you. Yes. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. So a number of banks are adopting technology, digital banking to be safe. So gone are the days when you could walk into the banking hall to ask for your bank statement, or you log in through, you come and talk to your customer service person, just say, I need to get a bank statement of my account. But now you can get everything at your fingertips. You can do balance inquiries. You can open your account, from the comfort of your palms. You can do literally anything. You can check, you can manage your finances. You ask for your bank statements. You can do card services basically from the comfort of your phone or gadget. Of course, this technology, like my brother mentioned, also comes with risks. Cyber is the biggest threat right now. And I think that's the biggest single challenge that is the country that, IT guys are fumbling with what to do.
Right.
But because it requires a lot of muscle, of course, to invest in cyber. The regulator here... Hello?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, the regulator here, the banking sector has come up with guidelines on cyber security, which have implications on the cost structure of institutions. If you are not a large institution, then there is a bit of challenge in terms of affording to implement the requirements of the regulator. You need to have a structure, you need to have this kind of staff. There's etc. Yeah, so I just stop it there.
Good. No, that's very nice. No, thank you, Arrhenius. That's very nice. And to all of you, thank you for that, because you sketched out the playing field very nicely, the issues, the problems, the challenges. Now I want to change gears slightly, because underpinning all of this, and some of you have put little tempting bits on the table already around this, is the skills, the people who are needed to drive these things, to take these new opportunities, to develop the new software, to develop the ways of taking it to clients, the way of reconfiguring new products and new services that make sense for clients, which weren't possible in a non-digital environment, in a rapidly unfolding digital environment. What are some of the strategies you use in your organizations to make sure that you have the right level of skill and the right type of skill? What has been working for you?
That's pointing to me?
No, that's. I think Paul and either Ken or Paul have been very quiet lately, and we need to give them a chance to go in. I see. Let's hear from Paul. He's been patiently sitting over there. Then we'll go to Ken after that, because I know they will want to get involved in that. Go ahead, Paul. I think you're still on mute, Paul. It happens to all of us, we will get stuck with that. But anyway, go ahead, tell us about what your people, how are you getting the right skills, the right people into your organization? Where are you finding them, and how are you developing them and growing them inside your organization? Oops, I think Paul has frozen there. It's got that wooden look of someone who's frozen there. That's a pity.
And upskilling.
Oh, you're back again. Sorry, Paul, you just disappeared for a moment. Your screen froze, so maybe you want to start at the beginning again.
My internet. Yeah. If you could allow me, let me switch. I think my internet is quite stable. I can put off my video for a bit.
Okay, put your video off and tell us the story.
Yeah, basically, I think one of the strategy has been it's upskilling the internal talent that we have existing. I talked about the rapid change that happens. The business is always evolving. There are new opportunities that are rising to try out new models or to see new opportunities. So I can't keep getting external talent for every other small micro incremental change that happens. So the first thing is always to upscale the internal talent that we have. And this is whether exposing them to the new business models that we're reaching and so forth. Secondly, is also now exploring what I could call non-traditional talent pipelines. So I would talk about probably people that have been through, let's say, bootcamps, people that have taken part in things, I would say, in places or in businesses that we're interested in. Not in a sense just watching candidates from competitors and so forth, but it's also looking at people that bring very specific skill set to a business. And the other thing has also been just ability to break the different silos within the business, just have a bit of the technology, the business people learning from what is happening on the technical side. Because what usually happens, the gap usually happens where we have the teams are a bit siloed. So on one side, the team is advancing in terms of adaptability, but the other side, the team is still held on to, let's say, the traditional ways of doing things. So we've kind of tried to bring these different teams, what ideally just encouraging this cross-functionality within the entire team to just make it easier to adopt to innovation that is arising, but also being able to just keep pace with how fast we iterate, how fast we grow, and with a business that in very many sense it's very, I don't know why I could call it free, but it's very ubiquitous in some sense.
Yeah, it's getting and developing that skill, because obviously, as you mentioned, importing a new skill for something that's developed is expensive and difficult to do, and you've always got to be able to learn on the run to be able to respond to this in terms of either the training you provide, the learning opportunities, or the technology you're adopting, and then as an institution, getting on top of that, understanding that. Ken, you are going to take this further. You're going to develop this further for us. Go ahead.
Sure. Thanks. So for us, first now moving into policy manual and establishment of the framework. So what has gone next is getting the right resources. Apparently, we also needed to match this with the current talent pool that is there in the market. So this looks in enhancing our ICT area with the machine learning and analytics resource. So we have gone intentionally into that area whereby these resources are not available internally, so we have to create for it and also bring from the market. This is because when you look at also the academic levels, they've really advanced into upskilling this kind of knowledge. So with that, now we've also brought in TOT kind of concept, so that now within our tools, research and development, product development, business analytics, and also reporting has now moved towards digitization, AI matrices, and these are the people who are really helping us to close this kind of concept internally, establish in between business framework and the organogram to also keep people on the new area. So instead of just taking everybody to learn this in schools, I'm sure this is one of the areas that Digital Genesis is actually offering. So what we've done is bringing a TOT internally. We can now save in terms of cost into integrating to the current curriculums and coming back and training more people. Let's call it well.
Right, and Thank you very much for that, Kenneth. Thank you for the lovely advertisement there. For those of you who are watching in our audience, we do offer a whole set of digital programs which are delivered online on very specific job-focused things in the digital area. And many organizations have benefited from that. Thank you for giving the opportunity. This is not a marketing exercise, this is not a sales exercise, but I can't let you go away and not respond to what you said. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, it's getting to the people and getting that culture in your organization that technology is not a frightening thing, and where can we push it? Where can we make it work for us? How can we make it our friend rather than the enemy that we continually have to be on the back foot, catching up with it and trying to deal with that? Good. Now you've put that very nicely on the table. Thank you for that. Irenaeus, you want to come in over here?
Yeah, sure, I can.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think in terms of HR, there are specialist skills. First of all, you need a structure around that. Now, in terms of business model, you can outsource or in-source. In-sourcing has cost implications. And I'm talking from a banking perspective where you need programmers or software engineers who need to do the programming of how loans are going to be issued out, how savings products are going to be enabled virtually. So those skills might not be available internally. Going by my experience in the latest microfinance where I worked, obviously when I rolled out these products, I didn't have resources internally. So I just had an IT function. So basically, what I had to do is now to outsource, look for a fintech, but we have the knowledge in terms of what needs to be done. So the specifications of what needs to be done then has to be done by the team internally, and then you look for a technology partner with the programming skills. So you enter into an arrangement, and in short, let me talk about outsourcing there. So that's on the IT side. So because if you are to have these resources internally, then it's in terms of the OPEX that shoots up. The technology also comes with cyber risks. So then, if you need to manage the cyber side, also you need to get resources to look after cyber. And I think you have to pay an arm and a leg to get those kind of resources. Yeah, so not easy to whatever. So again, you get into this situation where you probably make decisions whether you need to look for someone who can manage those services for you, or you in-source. So for us, we started developing the resources internally, one by one. But of course, part of it, we had an in-house resources, and then external resources. On the HR side, I think a lot of cyber issues are triggered by if like you have on board employees who have track records that are not clean, who collude with external people to So I think from a hiring perspective, then you need to look at who you're bringing on board, and this is someone you can trust, etc. Of course, that's on the technical side, but there are some soft skills. When it comes to lending, you need to set up departments for debt collection, for instance. Those ones, like a call center. So that one is not hard to get, whatever. Yeah, so I think that's it, Dr.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it's the risk is a key factor here, because obviously financial institutions, whatever it might be, banking, finance, insurance, etc., things of value, they either have important information or they have funds flowing through the organization. People want to get to that and get to basically steal it, commit fraud. And that's a big problem. Also, you have money laundering, because we see all over the world, big money laundering cases of people using financial institutions in a very unsuspecting way. People don't be aware of it. It happens behind the scene. All of a sudden, your name is out in the marketplace and you have all sorts of problems there. And of course, it doesn't help that we in the global south, we as Africans, are not necessarily always on top of the very top trends, because those people are sitting in the northern hemisphere and they are earning the salaries that go with northern hemisphere environments. And so that makes it difficult to bring those skills to us. So your comment about outsourcing, of actually giving people packages of work, organizations do a package of work for your organization and come install it. It is expensive, but it's probably less expensive than keeping things. That's one of the ways of keeping it there. It won't fit for everybody. It doesn't fit for every case out there, but that is certainly a very doable thing. And I know Stanley wants to come in on the debate now, because he's been sitting very quietly over there, and he's been formulating what he wants to say. So Stanley, we're going to go over to you and you get to your view on what we're talking about now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Terry. Yes, I wanted to weigh in on this debate, very interesting debate, in terms of business transformation. The key word here is transformation. Most organizations are leveraging digital to transform, but the key word is transformation. But there are 5 things I would say that the leading organizations are doing. Now, number 1, they are attracting and keeping top talent. So there's a war on talent, and leveraging digital tools to find, hire, and retain and skill those employees is a competitive market. So number 1, for any organization that wants to be a leader, attracting and keeping top talent. Number 2, developing future-ready skills. We have discussed that in terms of what are kind of skills that are required for the workforce of the future, especially implementing digital learning programs to upskill and reskill employees for the changing finance landscape. The landscape is changing, so we need to start learning and unlearning, especially areas of cybersecurity and cloud. And then engaging employees in a hybrid model. One of us talked about the COVID times. We need to empower employees to work in a hybrid model so they are flexible, okay? And then using data for better decisions. Data-driven insights are very important in the age that we live in. So leveraging HR analytics, track metrics, predict trends, and measure input and impact. And then compliance, we have got the Data Protection Act of Kenya. We've got other organizations that are obligated to GDPR of Europe. So use digital tools to manage employee data to ensure there's no privacy leaks, training employees, and ensure adherence to regulations. So those are the 5 things I would say that most leading organizations are embarking on and they're focusing on. Thank you.
No, good. Thank you for that statement. That's been very helpful over there. And you've made a whole lot of comments over there, which I couldn't possibly respond to. But one of the things that I think is worth dwelling on a little is you mentioned things about finding the top talent and the business transformation, that the business is changing. So the firm you might have joined a year or 2 or 3 years ago is a different one now, and it's going to be different in 3 years' time. And it's how you get that organization, that coalition of people who are going on the journey together. And you mentioned something else as well too, in terms of hybrid working relationships, working from home, and that for many people is highly attractive, because it allows them, especially if they're not client-facing roles, it allows them to match their work time to what works for their family, their own personal preferences in terms of day or night. We all know about the IT folk who start work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and finish at 2 o'clock the next morning. And those are the sorts of things we need to be able to do there. And that transformation, because it's not just about transforming in terms of new products and services and technology and computers and the hard stuff in that sense, but it's also the way organizations think about themselves in terms of the service they provide, how that service is changing, and how they're keeping in touch with the client out there, the clients, either existing clients, new clients. And we know that in Africa, large parts of our populations are unbanked. They don't have access to the resources of banking. It's dramatic changes. Kenya itself, as you know, you've made some dramatic changes in that area. But it's a general rule of thumb. It's a way to go around that. How do we keep our organizations together, that we actually get the people who actually are committed to the organization, bearing in mind we've got people from different generational groups. We've got the generation X's and Y's and Z's. We have possibly a different view of the world, where we come from out there. How do you keep that process of organizational renewal, of self-development, of self-growth, of self-involvement inside the organization? Who would like to rescue me on that one? Give me your thoughts, because you're senior people, your CEOs and other people out there, you grapple with this every day. What's been your recipe for dealing with that? Shall we go to Ken on this one? Ooh, they've all gone quiet on me. Who else? Who would like to take this? Paul? Irenius? Oh, maybe I didn't phrase it correctly over there. It's how we keep our organization together. We've in this fireball between what's happening in the marketplace on one side, it's transformation, how technology is changing our organization dramatically because of new things we have to do, new services, etc., and new products and platforms. It's how do we keep that organization together, that people still feel part of the organization and that they have a role to play and they have a career path and a learning path through the organization.
Maybe I can attempt to answer that.
Yes, come and rescue me here. Come and help me here. I need help. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think there are various methods or methodologies organizations use to get the team together. Of course, top there is an organizational goal. So irrespective of what's your age group, whether you're a Gen Z or whatever, one of the ways, obviously, is to have some things bringing people together, form of teams. So you can take your team out for team buildings, and during those sessions, you can have exercises that just get people to gel and get together and feel like they are part of one organization. So that's one.
Yeah.
The other, of course, I think is from a leadership perspective, is just to develop respect for the people who work under your purview, respect for all. You know, when an employee feels that you respect, and you respect even the decision or sometimes the views that come from that employee, there's some element of motivation. So I think mutual respect, you have to build a culture that accommodates that respect, a culture that allows for feedback, not so much emphasis on who's from what age group. That's not to say that you'll miss those elements of age differences, because in this age and era of technology, let's say the line manager is from the older generation, I don't know which one, is it X or whatever it is. And then there is a Gen Z who has an idea on how things need to move, but the older person feels that we've been doing things this way. And when the Gen Z is bringing up an idea, so there will be a tendency to resist, because the older person has been used to a way of life. Yeah. So this idea obviously is distorting the status quo in terms of how I've been functioning and how you want me to move. So resistance to change. But I think it just calls for consciousness. I'll give an example. My organization, age differences were there, but I think we functioned as one team. Just show these employees respect, Call them, show that you respect them, you want them to develop, you want them to become anything that they want to be, and they'll give you results. I think that's how I'll deal with that for now.
Right.
So you and that sort of culture has to permeate across. So you shouldn't have, let's say you are the CEO of an organization and you have HODs. They have to replicate what the CEO is doing. So that culture, it has to be an organization-wide culture of respect, of tolerance for one another, of people feeling as one and having a common vision and mission, driving the organization in the same direction.
Right, there's a whole lot of stuff in there, Renius, that we have to respond to there. And I think that the starting point, as you put it there, is about respect, because and it's not just your tech people, these could be your people who are your product development people and people who take products and services out to the client. Respect is very critical because they are knowledge workers. They're not subservient people who sort of fulfill instructions and orders. They actually are informed to be able to take decisions at that point of contact, at that point of implementation, being able to do things in an appropriate way, having the big picture of what the organization's about, and they can translate it through to what they're doing there. And I think that's an importance for me, generally speaking, with the research we do and speaking to colleagues, is where organizations are changing, because you have to look at people in a very different way. They're not just biological microprocessors who fulfill instructions. That's gone down many years ago. But you actually have to pull them into the organization to be able to help them become part of the organization in terms of understanding the organization, and not just that the words are the mission and vision and values of the organization, becomes lived experience. And that, I think, is one of the big challenges inside technology generally, is that we get focused on the hardware and the software, and we don't look at the people response beside that. So thank you very much for that, Renius. That set us off on a very nice tangent over there. Who else would like to take that further? I see we've lost one or two people and we've gained one or two people. So Ken, you've been quiet for a while now, Ken. Yes, who's that? Who's that? That's Stanley back again.
Yes, Stanley.
Yes, Stanley, go ahead, Stanley. Come and mix it up over here. Come and point us in another direction.
Yes, I like what the previous colleague said about culture. There's this Peter Drucker quote about culture eating strategy for breakfast.
Yes.
So culture is very important in an organization, but we pay lip service so much to culture, but we don't walk the talk most of the times. And that's why we see a high turnover in some organizations. So what we need to put in place so that we reduce that turnover and staff demotivation and staff turnover is to ensure this transformational leadership that resonates with every employee, not just the top employees, not just the middle employees, but a transformational leadership that resonates with all employees, so that every employee feels that they are valued, every employee feels that they can be listened to, they offer feedback, they offer ideas, and the ideas are listened to. That's the kind of organization that thrives, where ideas can come from any part of the organization, from the shop floor to the boardroom. So in such an organization becomes now a creative organization, or what we call an innovative organization, because everybody is given equal hearing, everybody is given equal chances. There's equality, there's diversity, there's inclusion. So that's the kind of organization that we have seen when we look at research that have been studied, that have been able to be innovative and produce the best solutions and products. So everybody becomes a CEO of a product, not just the CEO on the top, but everybody becomes a CEO of a product. And that is, I agree with the previous colleague, that culture is very important, but also creating that mindset across all echelons of the organization, that everybody is important and everybody matters. Thank you.
Nicely put there, very nicely put. And that for me is one of the key outcomes of a process, a conversation that we're talking about now, is is that how we create that supportive, where we value the human beings in our organization rather than seeing them as people who just have to work 40 hours a week or something like that, and how we pull them into the organization, because it's their joint collective creativity and support for the process at various levels of the organization, in various roles inside the organization that comes together. It's always been important, but it's becoming much more important now in a digital market environment, a situation where the technology can take care of doing the boring, dreary administrative stuff, and now it frees people up to do the creative supportive thing. One of my very first jobs as a student was working at a bank in good old days. I mean, I'm the oldest person in the room, so I can say these things over here. If someone wanted to know their balance, they had to go into the bank. They physically had to go in the bank, and you went to the account and said, "Please, will you go and find my balance for me?" And someone would go into the whole filing system and scrape through the thing to find your folder, and there all your checks would be in a row, physical checks, and they'd say, right, there'd be a written up little piece of paper that will say your current balance is this, and then they'd write a piece of paper and hand it to you. And that's was not a role that required creativity. Now those sorts of really boring, uninteresting jobs have changed, and now we need to harness the creativity, the skills, the knowledge, the resources, the native cunning of people to be able to come up with unusual solutions and changing the culture of organization. We've worked with like transformation, we've looked at knowledge management, we looked at respect, we've looked at managing our top talent, and that puts, for you who are senior executives in organization, that puts a very big burden on your shoulders to be able to respond to that. Before we go on, just to our audience out there, thank you for being with us this afternoon. It's been lovely having you with us. We're having an exciting debate. I see none of you have put questions in the question and answer block at the bottom. If you look down the bottom of your screen, slightly to the right-hand side, there's a Q&A block. If there's a question you'd like to put to us, we have serious experts in the room today who will be delighted to respond to any questions you have and anything that you would like to raise. Or you might want to put a really challenging question to them, and this is the place and time to do it, and we still have time to be able to address that over there. Was there anything that people want to respond to, or shall I change gears slightly in terms of the direction we're going in? Anybody wanted to go that? Ken, I know I gave you a chance just now and you were busy with somewhere else. Is there anything you want to get in over here, or are you going to leave it for the next round?
Hello.
Paul is going to take the place over. Yes, Paul has stepped into the fray over. Yes, take it away, Paul. Do it.
Sorry.
Your voice is a little bit, I can't hear you terribly nicely there.
Can you hear me now?
It's a little bit better now. Go ahead. Speak boldly and strongly.
Okay. So what I meant is that I am totally in agreement with what most of the speakers have said. That in terms of the need to focus our retention strategy in the way of the digital transformation, let me just give a practical scenario. Like in an industry like ours, where we have a lot of, I think the majority of remote work is happening within technology sectors. So that's a discussion you'd have to entertain. That when people are looking for a model that is it a hybrid model of working, is it new criteria of evaluating the performance of the employees, we might need to depart from the traditional KPI kind of aligned evaluation criteria, and then also just discovering the more than just financial incentives that keep employees or entering within the organization. It's evaluating all these other psychological and cultural factors that influence the employee's decision to stick with you. Like I love the person who said sometimes the employees they don't leave bad workplaces, they actually quit on bosses, they quit bad cultures. So really being very careful to have a culture that attracts and retains good talent in the organization. So I think there's a total refocus in terms of the organization relationships with the talent that it has, as well as just providing that suitable environment where they can be able to basically thrive and grow. Yeah, that's what I would add.
And you've added that very well. That was a very nice development there, Paul, is around this culture of helping people to make that contribution, because a lot of the time getting to grips with technology, it's fiddling with it yourself. It's not like you can go and do a course. In some cases it can be you do a course, but a lot of it is by fiddling, testing, buying software, using your existing software, playing with it, using other tools and technologies to be able to help you get the best out of it. And it's creating the environment where it's okay to do that you're not going to be wrapped over the knuckles. Why did you spend the whole afternoon fiddling around with the payments system? You should be doing other things over there, creating that culture of respect and transformation around that. And Irenius and Stanley and Ken and Paul, you've spoken to that very eloquently and very neatly around that. I just want to say to our audience out there, if there are any questions you want to put in the question and answer box, please do that over there. What I'm going to do now is change gears yet again and go in a different direction. And I've told you about it, Billy. We often have students, they might be with employers, they might be with other institutions, who are considering a career in the financial services environment. They still study. They might be first year, second year, third year at university, or they might be involved in some other course of tertiary activity and learning over there. What should they be? What advice do you have for young people who want to go into the financial services industry, bearing in mind what we've spoken about, technology on one side and talking about organizational transformation? If you were giving me advice as a young student, not that I'm a young student, I'm a very old student, but you get what I'm getting at. What advice do you have for a youngster who says, I want to go into this thing over here? What sort of courses should they be focusing on? What sort of experiences should they be looking for? What sort of entry jobs should they be looking at in the organization? Because often the entry point is very different from where you will end up at, but you learn important skills at your entry point, which you then take with through the organization. I've sketched that out very badly, but you know what I'm trying to get at. Who would like to give some advice to youngsters who are considering an industry over there? And I see Ken is off the mark like a shot over there. I can see Ken was straight. He's unmuted and he's ready to go. Ken, take it away.
Yes, sure. I think one thing that you should align your academic studies currently is on where the world is headed to. The world definitely is looking at upscaling the digitization field and changing the brick and mortar model that has been so much anchored on the tradition. The other thing is data has become the new oil. If you look at also traditional area whereby it was cash rich was the oil industries, fuel and gas also, but now in the future, data will be the new venture that will basically make very critical magnitude in terms of cash rich areas. The other issue is ideas are born and killed in the boardrooms, and simply because most institutions react without an appreciation of data. They do not look at how impactful short-term or long-term goals are going to be achieved or realized. And this is where you realize more jargons come into decision-making because data has not been well appreciated. So if you're really looking at an entry point, studying into areas of analytics, machine learning, and future impressions that are supposed to be speaking to customer needs and companies' bottom lines. So that would be my advice to James.
Very nicely put there, Ken. Very nicely put over there is understanding data analytics and also understanding the interface with the client over there. Those are the things to take away with us and put into action over there. Right, who's next? Advice to a youngster who wants to get into the business. How should they best do this? Let's put Stanley on the spot over here. Stanley, talk to us.
Yeah, I was looking at the future of the work report from the World Economic Forum, the future of work report.
Yes.
They are saying that the most important skills are in AI, data analytics, cybersecurity, and then soft skills where people can be creative and innovative. So we're preparing our people here in Kenya to be leaders in cybersecurity, in AI, data analytics, and also having those soft skills so that they can communicate clearly, where they can have empathy, so they can feel the feelings of others. They're not just robots. So we're trying to differentiate our employees from being a robot, because robots are very mechanical, but humans can relate with each other and resonate with each other. So those are the skills that we are emphasizing on as much as possible. I don't know whether we can add others as colleagues. Thank you.
No, that's nicely put there, Stanley. Very nicely put there. And it's interesting he's juxtaposing the soft skills with this, because often the hard techie stuff, you know, the old-fashioned view of an IT person was they don't really talk to people. They just generate code and they do the inputs and outputs and they manage the data, but they don't necessarily have people over there. And I think that's because Ken has mentioned that, and you've taken it further over there. You've got to manage the soft skills, the people skills of wearing well to create that culture that people can disagree with each other, but it doesn't affect the relationship. Or people can take risks and say, let's try this, let's develop this, let's put this new thing out in the marketplace. And people are supportive of it rather than saying, no, you know, we tried that 30 years ago and it didn't work, and that's not what we want to have there. So nicely put nuance out there.
Sorry,
Right.
Dr. James, just sorry to interrupt.
No, you're not interrupting. You're going to take the conversation further. Go ahead.
Because I noticed my gadget is throwing me out any moment. So let me just make my comment.
Make your comment.
Yeah, so in terms of that piece that you've asked, I think my colleague has talked about soft skills, you know, emotional intelligence, you know, how do you relate with people around you? How do you communicate? You know, those ones you deal with. Those are very relevant in terms of emotional intelligence, communication skills, how you relate with the society. Because you ask your customers and the people that you work with, that's very important. The technical side, I think HR will continue to be there, finance will continue to be there, but the way in which you carry out your tasks is likely to change. Probably you'll be accessing your reports online. The way in which you now need capabilities of reading data. So I think AI, artificial intelligence, whatever, machine learning, those are critical components. We are going to see increasing need for the people who are well versed in data science, you know, ability to do some analytics around data and help. That helps, of course, in decision making, whether it's finance, it's HR, it's whatever function, that will cut across. So AI is a very important component at the moment. You know, we need software engineers because whatever now we are talking about on the IT side, everything, whether it's in HR, will need to run through, to be done by IT experts. So software engineers or, you know, developers, front end, back end, and etc. will be very, very necessary. On the people retention side, I would talk about maybe advising the youngsters when you join the market, because I've seen an increasing trend where, unlike the older generation, you know, they are on the move. You join a company and in the next month you're looking for another job. Probably that's not a good trend. So you need to be patient. Don't go after money very quickly and then you want to get rich quickly. The environment is good, stay on. And yeah, so don't you know, be patient in gratification. I think those are the few comments I would make. Technological adoption, and then on the PeopleSoft side, I think those are personal traits that somebody has in terms of how you relate with the people around you. Very important. Those ones you can develop them yourself because they are also important in the working environment. On the retention side, be patient. you don't build a castle in a day. So you build, one step at a time. Thank you. I'm likely to be dropped off, unless there is any critical question I can deal with before my colleagues jump in.
Thank you, and I hope you'll be able to stay right through to the end, but we are going to provisionally say goodbye to you, but we are not out of our minds, but thank you for that. And I liked that comment you had over there about being patient, because a career takes a long time, and often your first job, and all of you can respond to this because you know about it. You were doing things that weren't very exciting or very boring or very drudgeless, but you learned routines, you learned insights, you learned to understand things. I mean, my first job was a plant operator at Diamond Mine, which is basically a laborer working shifts day and night, etc., on a diamond mine. But you learn things about people, about process, about technology, and so on, which you then draw on in later life. If you go in and you want to get the top job very quickly, you don't build those skills, those insights, those understanding situations, what I call the accumulated patterns of experience, which you can take with you up through your career, which you can then apply and refract in totally different situations, because you informed that you were doing work at that particular level. So that's an important thing, folks out there, to the audience out there who are considering a career. They're in university or in college and they want to go into this area. Your first job is not going to be your last job, but it's an important building platform where you actually make sure that you really truly understand the stuff of what banking and finance and transactions and insurance is about, because you will draw on that later on in life. And you can't retrofit it later on. Nicely put. Thanks to you, Irenius, and I hope you haven't dropped off yet. I can see you still in the room.
No,
now we're going to go to... Sorry?
I'm still on.
You're still on. Now we can see you there. You are still in our hearts. Paul, right, you're going to bring us the last comment on this. There we go. What's your contribution on this point?
Which point is that?
No, it's Paul. I'm looking for Paul to contribute over here.
Sorry.
It's giving him a chance to add his points to the conversation. Are you still there, Paul? Oh, he's
yes,
with us. Yes, go ahead. Yes, talk to us. Take it away.
Well, ideally, what I would say in terms of relevant preparation for either new entrance into a career that is being shaped in a dynamic world, highly technologically influenced world. I would say it's perhaps the differentiator. I think the competition has quite increased. Traditionally, there are roles that would not require, for instance, interpersonal skills to be a major thing. I think as we automate more work flows, ideally what people will be left to do is high quality, very bespoke kind of responsibility. And therefore it calls for more refinement. And this is both people that can be able to work with technology tools efficiently, but people that can also be able to rally teams, to collaborate much better, to become better users of a technology and better users of the day-to-day tools that every other organization is engaged into. That is what I would say on the baseline. But in terms of more specific event skills that are there, is that whether you're looking at technical kind of path or you're looking at a business path, all these paths have been influenced one way or another by technology. So a more adaptive, more adaptive team member becomes relevant in the long run. So I would say it's more of adaptability in the place of work. The fact that as new areas are emerging. For instance, if you look at compliance, so this compliance is not just a blanket sort of area. It has different paths that it's taking depending on the model of the business. If you look at just ideally what we could call customer support. It's no longer customer support. It has something more than that. And that's why it has been dynamically changing over time. Customer success, customer retention. I mean, looking at it, we wouldn't say there's one area that we can really tell people, prepare in this area or become skilled in this area and be successful. I think every other area within the organization is getting disrupted. And for me, it's just that preparation and that adaptability, that willingness to stretch and willingness to, adopt new ways of doing things away from just the traditional way that career path would take.
Nice there. You've given us another nice word. We've had lots of nice words in conversation this afternoon. And your word is adaptability. That's something I'm going to take away with me this afternoon. It's about being adaptable. It sort of sits next to agile, but it's not the same as agile. Being adaptable, saying, this is me with my skills and background and interests, and here's the situation in front of me, which is changing and developing as I'm changing and developing. And how do I adapt then in this context of what I'm doing out there? That's just something that you could make a whole speech about that at a graduation ceremony around that adaptability of being able to adapt yourself to the context and the situation you're facing out there. And I think we've had many words of wisdom, and that's another word of wisdom that we can take away from us. Right, we're into the final stretch this afternoon. We've covered a vast amount of ground over here. We've just scraped the surface. This is always the infuriating thing about a webinar like this. We're really just getting down to the really interesting stuff and we're coming to the end. But we are coming to the end. We're not at the end yet, but we are coming to the end. This is the point where I like to go around the room and for the participants, the panelists, to make a contribution. There might be something that you wanted to say that you haven't had the opportunity to say. The conversation's gone in another way, or you missed the opportunity, or the conversation hasn't gone in the direction that you want to make a point about over here. Now is the opportunity for you to make your specific point that you'd like to make over here and leave it us in the room at the closing stages of this so we can take it away and think about it. Is there anything there that you want to add that we haven't spoken about but you think is important and that you want to share with us? Now is your opportunity. Who's going to respond to that? Who's going to take us up on that? Anything you'd like to add that we thought this is important and we haven't spoken about that at all this afternoon. So who's going to be brave and unmute themselves and step into the silence to take it away with us? Anything we have spoken about, should have spoken about, wanted to speak about, left unspoken? Sometimes you get real gems coming out of this, and sometimes you don't get real gems over here because we've put it all out on the table, and we certainly have done that. Anybody? Nobody? Somebody? They're all thinking over here, putting it together. Right. I get the sense that there is nothing that people want to say, and there's nothing worse than trying to squeeze lemon juice out of a stone, because that's not a very useful thing over there. I think we've come to the end of this afternoon's conversation. If we were to continue now, we'd go off in all sorts of tangents and directions, and it'll be another hour and a half. So to our audience out there, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you for being with us, and I hope you've taken away some insights. There have been lots of little things that if you put them all together, look at your notes you've taken, put them all together, are things that can really influence your career. Even if you're not in banking and financial services, it can still have an influence in your career and take you forward. And of course, we're always privileged to have you with us on these forums, on these platforms, because it's part of making knowledge available. We think that everybody should be have access to the greatest thinking, the best thinking, and that certainly has been the case this afternoon. So to our audience out there, thank you so much for being with us. And to our panelists who are in the room today, I really want to thank you. You've been very generous. You've been very gracious. You've given us something really precious. Two things that are really precious. You've given us your time because you're busy people, you're big jobs, you're dealing with things that are important. There are crises that are sitting on your desk right now that you have to attend to, but you've given us your time over there, and we really do appreciate that. And also, you've given us your wisdom, your insight, your experience in these matters, which for the people who've been listening and taking it home with them, they can think about this and it will inform them in terms of their career, in terms of understanding the financial services, but also we can couch what we said today in the broader context of business, because banking and finance and insurance is the backbone of the economy. And these are things which make a lot of sense and make a lot of value. So from me, on behalf of Regenesis, to Ken, to Stanley, to Paul, and our readers, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I know you've still got several hours before you can even think of going home. But thank you for the time you've given to us. We appreciate your generosity, and we hope our paths cross again very soon. Obviously, if this was now a formal conference, if we're all together in a room and stages and platforms and microphones and things like that, I'd give you a little bag with some nice things in it. I can't do that in this room today, but we will be couriering to each one of you a book written by our chairman, Dr. Marco Sharavanya, called The Secrets of Success. It's an inspirational book. It's a nice big thick book, which you can keep at your bedside and delve into it. And there's things over there that will help you come to terms with as you develop your career, as you develop your life. Really important and valuable insights over there. It'll be our pleasure to share that with you. And of course, not only to our panelists, but also to people who are listening. Come and visit us at our campus in Nairobi. I've got the address somewhere over here, which I'll probably mislaid over here. It's my bad thing, but you can always find us on the website and come and meet our team in there and come and discuss the sorts of learning opportunities we have available. We can't do it alone. We need people to work with and students and ideas and things. And I thank all of you for being here this afternoon. I've enjoyed it. I've had a front row seat. It's been tremendously inspirational. And I thank you for your time together. So from Regenesis to all of you, to Ken, to Stanley, to Paul, and to Irenius, thank you for your time. I really appreciate that. And go well. And I hope that our paths will cross again in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Look after yourselves. It's been nice. I really appreciate the effort you put into this. This was
Thank you.
And goodbye to all.